to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now it is The Year of the Dresden.
The Year of the Dresden.
And we are covering the first 11 chapters of Full Moon by Jim Butcher. Full Moon, not full moon. A full moon, if you will.
A couple of fools.
Just a couple of fools talking about a full moon.
Full of a took.
But Laura, before we get into it, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Hannah, did I tell you about my recent thriller read that I read? Okay.
You read a thriller?
Yes, as a buddy read.
Are you dying? Oh, okay.
I feel like it. I'm dying inside.
Oh, good.
But I read How to Kill Your Family via audio. This book is written by Bella Mackie, another British setting. And this
a lot of British murders out there, everyone.
A lot of British murders. It gave me a lot of vibes of Sweetpea, honestly, by C.J. Skuse.
Oh, wait, you might have told us about this. I apologize.
Did I tell you about this one?
I feel like I was told about it.
I don't know if I told you about it on air, though. I probably didn't tell you on air.
Maybe
I think
not.
I might have just messaged you about it. But I have so many thoughts. I have so many thoughts. I can't keep track of them all. They're going all over.
Yeah, wait, what was the name of this book?
How to Kill Your Family.
Nope, you have not talked about it. Did I just check our show notes to see if you had told me about it? Yes, I did.
That is smart. So anyways, light spoilers for How to Kill Your Family. It follows a woman who has grown up in a rough situation, and she hasn't been in contact with her biological father because he is a rich person. This woman was born as the result of an affair that her rich father had with a young woman who didn't have a lot of money and was kind of in poor situation. And so this woman grows up and she harbors a lot of resentment for her biological family because they're all rich and, you know, like extremely stereotypical rich people to the point where it's just like they are all terrible. Like they're all doing terrible things. Like this one is rude to customer service people and then heads off to the spa and is rude to people there. And like another one is a terrible like socialite on social media and is awful, and you know practically like Epstein Island type stuff going on too. Yeah, so they're all just like every member of this woman's biological family who she hasn't had any contact with are just the absolute worst type of people. And she had seemingly a really great relationship with her mother, her biological mother, who raised her until she died tragically from illness. So this woman then decides that she's going to get vengeance on her biological family. She's going to go and kill them all. And so she's executing this plan to kill them all. Hannah, I get a little frustrated with this book for a few reasons.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't necessarily understand the need for vengeance, I guess, when she had no contact with them. Like, they didn't technically do anything to her. And it comes off like, maybe it's just that I've done a lot of therapy and I'm just like, that just seems like jealousy that you need to talk to someone about. Because a lot of the book, the way that this character was motivated by this vengeance didn't make sense to me, because it seemed almost more of like I'm jealous that they had all these nice things and that me and my mom didn't get them. And she claimed several times that she was doing this to like avenge her mother. And it's like, yeah, but you also mentioned conversations that your mother was happy with your life and didn't want this kind of stuff and didn't like feel bad. So I'm confused as why you are connecting your mother to this all, but whatever. And I guess I just didn't quite understand the need for vengeance that the character had, but it's a book and it's a fiction story, so gotta have something like this. And it makes more sense in a fictional world for this to exist than it does in the real world.
Yeah.
But the other thing that was extremely frustrating, Hannah, Listeners, skip ahead 2 minutes. I'm going to spoil the ending.
Oh no, what if I wanted to read it?
Go ahead. I'm still spoiling it, Hannah, for you
Okay.
at the very least. Here it comes, listeners. Skip ahead. In the end, she is denied the chance to murder a family member that she wanted to murder more than anyone else, obviously her
Mm.
biological father,
Mm-hmm.
because another man swoops in and he murders them all.
Oh, good.
Or he murders the dad, not them all. He murders the dad. And so there's all this buildup to like her wanting to kill her dad because she wants to avenge her family and she wants to get revenge. And
Yeah.
and then she's not able to do it. And it made me so mad where I was like, you know what? Once I get past the whole like, you know what, whatever, it's a fiction story and she wants vengeance. Once I got past that and was starting to flow with it, I was like, whatever, this is kind of enjoyable to listen to or whatever. The narrator was great. But then at the very end, when they pulled the rug out from under her and she didn't even get to do it, and another man swooped in and did this, I was so mad. I
You're
could
like,
not
look, let her murder him or get
let this
over
woman be the murderer.
it.
Let her be the murderer. Women can murder too. She's done it before. Let her do it. Oh,
She's done it before.
it made me so mad. And it honestly, like, I probably would have given the book 4 stars
Wow. For
had
a book that you were kind of annoyed with in the first place.
I would have given it, yeah, I would have given it 4 stars because I was just starting to roll with it and everything. But because that ending, I instantly like bumped it. And when that chapter started and there was like a change in narrator and stuff, I was like, oh, I hate that this is happening.
No, thank
I,
you.
I
No,
knew
thank
exactly
you.
what was going on when that started, and I was like, I hate it already. I knew what was happening, and so it was like instantly like, back down to 3. Like can't even no. But oh, man, I just was so let down by that, and it made me kind of upset because listeners know that I have a fraught relationship with the thriller genre. I'm always dipping back in to see if I'm gonna like one, and often they don't hit right for me. And this one left a bad taste in my mouth because that ending,
Apparently.
oh, it made me so mad. Also, I've been continuing to read. Oh, go ahead.
I was
Were you
just
gonna say something?
wondering, yeah, because I was wondering, because like the way you told it to me, you're like definitely thriller. Is it like thriller? A lot of times I feel like thrillers are like, you know, thriller slash whodunits or thriller slash horror. Do you think it ever got into horror motifs? Because I also like, I feel like sometimes you
I
just
mean,
struggle
some of the
with,
deaths were described and they got a little brutal,
okay.
but I wouldn't say that I technically classify horror as being more along the lines of like Stephen King or
Hmm.
I think more of like I think of Earthlings and I am thinking more of those like really twisted things that
Yeah.
happen and it's almost like mind melding type situations. This is not mind melding situation. Like if I can picture it actually happening in the real world, to me, it's not quite horror, I
Okay.
guess.
No, that's fair. I was just wondering because sometimes, I don't know, I was just curious.
And I would even say like Annihilation kind of even borders on horror.
Oh, yeah, I would say Annihilation
So
borders
like
on
that in
horror.
my mind, like more like the weird, trippy things happening and gross and mutilated,
Hmm.
those kind of all tie into horror in my mind.
Okay.
But this
Yeah.
one I think was definitely there's a lot of humor in the story too. There's
Mm,
humor in it. I don't typically associate humor with horror. I,
that's
there's
fair.
probably a book out there that has them both, but I have not read a lot of horror to
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I think of horror, I generally think of like Stephen King or like darker, weirder stuff. This, even though there was violence and murder, it was not quite dark. It was almost like a narrative, like Bridget Jones' Diary style
Okay.
retelling, or not
Yeah.
retelling, but telling of this woman's journey. And it was just a letdown for me.
I get it.
Unfortunate. Unfortunate. I'm also still reading Last Watch, part of Buddy Read, and I'm finally getting into like the thick of it.
Okay.
And the book is really fast paced, but it's starting to finally like and this is strange because this is a long book, but I feel like there's just in the beginning portion of it, there was just action, 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 action. And it was enjoyable, but it's just like we don't have a lot of depth that's going on here. We're not learning about a lot of the characters very much. Like you'd get snippets of things and you'd be like, oh, I'm interested in that. And then it was like, but we can't talk about that now because literally this thing is going to collapse on us and we're all going to die. And I'm like, you're right. We can't talk about this right now. We need to move on. Like, this is a very enjoyable book because it's, like I said, it's really cinematic, but I really was like kind of wanting more like the depths of some of the characters. And finally, in this section, we've been kind of working through it slowly, me and Passa, as we do our buddy read. In this section, we've been finally like kind of getting a little more background on some of the characters and their situations, which I appreciated. And I hope that as we get into now, because I think we're over halfway now. So as we get into the next half of it, that we'll delve deeper and get more of that. But it's surprising that there's so much action. I was like, wow, we're like halfway through the book and it's just been like nonstop.
Right.
That's impressive, honestly. And it's not one of those things where you and I talk about this a lot where you have said like it was an action scene, so I just dipped out. I don't think you could dip out in this book because you won't understand what's going on. And it's just so much action, but it's really impressively written. And I do think that J.S. Lewis probably should get picked up for like a TV show or something because this would translate really well in a visual format because it just comes off like that on the page already.
Good.
And then Hannah, I've been watching The Circle. I cannot get over how messy this season is.
Oh gosh, with the woman who's like catfishing people with her brother, like
oh my gosh, they're just a hot mess. It's not even all the catfishes. It's just that some of these people are just ridiculous this season, and they're just so mean. I can't get over it. There was a couple seasons ago where it was so sweet. Everyone was kind to each other, and they were like pretty supportive and everything. I shouldn't say always kind because it's The Circle and they're playing to win. They got to be a little bit cutthroat. But the general like feeling you got watching it was not like you weren't kind of on like the edge of your seat like oh no. Oh no. But this season you definitely are and you're just like, "Oh, why would you tell her you'd be in an alliance with her when I'm automatically gonna go and rank her last. So
don't you have any decency?"
And they don't. Oh, this season is rough. And I just am having a really hard time watching it, honestly. Like, I'll be watching it, and my husband will watch it with me for a little bit, and then he'll literally say, okay, we gotta watch something else. Because he can't handle it.
Laura's husband says, no, thank you.
Oh my, and usually he's fairly okay with The Circle, but this season is a little rough compared to previous ones. And there's not really the friends like they have had in the past where previous seasons, I feel like even if they weren't all kind to each other, there were at least a few like couples of friends, where they're like, oh, well, so and so is my BFF in The Circle, and he and I always talk about this or whatever. And they actually genuinely had pretty good rapport or whatever.
That's good.
This season,
no.
Okay. Even the ones that are quote unquote friends, I'm like, I don't know how long this will last. This seems bad. But oh, yeah, it's rough. It's really rough.
It's really rough to be a fan of The Circle.
Oh, it's over now. And I'm like, other people were talking about it online, and I'm like, I can't even look. I gotta skip through this story because I need to watch it and witness it myself. It's almost like a horror story playing out on Netflix.
This is Laura's horror. Reality/horror.
Honestly, Hannah, I have thought about it multiple times where I've thought, you know what, I could go on The Circle. I could do this game show. But then I think about it more and I'm like, I don't think I could do it. Honestly, I don't think I could be mean enough. I would get too like upset by certain comments, and I don't know that I could be mean enough to do it, because you have to have a certain degree of like let it roll off your back what people say, and
Yeah.
also like a certain degree of like willingness to poke at or scratch at other people a little bit in order to
Yeah.
move your own game along to win. And I don't know if I could do it, because if you get the wrong crowd in there, like if you don't have a really nice supportive crowd, it could turn out
It's
like this, where it's
cutthroat.
just really cutthroat, and
Ugh,
I just don't know.
poor
But
Laura.
and I just have anxiety about like how people like perceive me and everything too, and I think that it's just been like a building from years and years of people telling me, "Oh, you're awkward or you're weird or whatever." So then I started to tell myself that, and that people didn't like me and that kind of thing. And it's taken me a long time to realize, like, oh no, you're actually a likable person. It's just
Yeah.
people say these things and don't actually mean them, or they think those things, or they're just trying to say something.
It's
I
one of
don't
those
know.
things where someone says something randomly and then it's like, well, I'm going to think about that for the next 5 years.
Pretty
And
much.
it's
But
just
for me, it's
someone
going on
saying
15.
something.
So,
Yeah. So yeah. And
but yeah,
there's,
if that were to be translated into the circle, I just don't know if I could handle it, because like one
I think
person like
you,
makes a comment and is like, well, your profile picture looks a little weird. It doesn't, I thought this was the naughty and nice game. That doesn't look nice. I'd be like, what? What? What do you mean?
oh
So,
Lord, I think you made the right choice with not going on the circle,
I mean, I haven't
actually. I
applied
think
yet.
that
I
that's,
might still
yeah.
apply.
Oh, okay. Well, she's thinking about it, guys. She
If they
might
do
do
like a
it.
Chicago version, maybe.
Maybe.
It would be worth a shot. Like,
Laura could do the
honestly,
circle,
I
guys.
think if the opportunity presented and I would needed $100,000, I could
I
try
mean,
the circle.
everyone, well, many people need $100,000, Laura. I feel like you
I mean,
might be
I
one
could
of
use it
them.
now, but I'm just saying, if
I like that you were like, well, if I needed it, and I'm like, well, we always need a
we
hundred
always need a
thousand
hundred thousand
dollars.
dollars, but there's certain things I'd be more willing to do to get $100,000, I guess. But I wouldn't say that I'm totally putting the circle off the table
You know, you
at this
can't just
point.
poo-poo it, okay? That's
Somebody for
amazing.
Netflix, if you're listening, like maybe reach
Laura's
out. I would
not
like to.
saying no.
I'm not saying no. Nobody knows what I look like really, so I could still be a catfish at this point.
That was our
Eh,
friend Veronica almost tried to go on one
Love
of
is
the
blind.
Netflix Love is Blind. Yeah, she was like, I was wondering about it.
That would
So,
have been a lot messier than the circle.
yes, because
And
they,
you don't win
man,
any money.
you don't. You just win a pretty bad relationship,
And you get
statistically
brand
speaking.
deals, I guess. That would be worth it.
Sometimes.
But if you're popular.
Yeah, only
But
if you're
who knows?
popular. Uh-huh. I
That would be a
don't
worse show to go on. I think the circle would be better.
know. Okay,
Because
well, as long
maybe you
as
actually could get some friends.
I wouldn't know.
Also, Hannah, I've just had kind of the last watch has been the highlight of my of what I've been reading, watching, and enjoying, because the other stuff I've been watching or reading I haven't enjoyed, but the last watch I've been enjoying. But Hannah, I watched Wish on Disney Plus. Did you watch
Oh,
it?
no, I heard it was bad.
Hannah, it was bad. And I'm so disappointed.
I heard it was kind of like a cash grab of like, look, it's one of our anniversaries. This is really important to know. It's kind of stupid.
It's not good and it's confusing. I shouldn't be confused in a children's movie, but I was. It's upsetting because it's like they had a lot of potential with this movie. They had a lot of celebrities in it, and
I
and
knew that
like
it was good. Like
singers.
the songs were all slightly off. Like they were like, hey, write something like Lin-Manuel Miranda, but like you're
No,
not.
not even close.
Yeah, because
Manuel
I
Miranda.
remember they were making fun of the one song about like thank
The
you or
villain
whatever, the
song.
villain song. Yeah, I heard the
What
villain
else
song
can
was
I
like really.
do? And it's just like this. I'm not gonna lie, I will still sing the songs, but the lyrics are stupid. The lyric, the
Look,
lyrics.
again, Laura wouldn't not sing it for a hundred
I'm not
thousand
gonna.
dollars,
I'm not
but
gonna.
she
I'm not gonna pass up $100,000 if someone offers me 100,000 to do those songs in a karaoke contest. I will sing those songs, but man, they're just not very good. And I don't know why I'm like this, but like in Disney movies especially, I kind of want the songs and the lyrics to transcend the movie, if that makes sense, where it's not like you have to mention certain people in the movie within the song. Like the songs in Moana are amazing.
yes.
Do they relate directly to the movie? Yes. But
Yes.
can you sing them at a spring concert for your chorus and also understand, like, oh, it's about a journey of how far you'll go? Yes, you
At
can.
at the heart of it, Laura is a theater girly and she wants
Yes.
to have a solo in the
I need a
play.
theatrical experience.
Yes.
This theatrical experience, not feeling it. And I was a little annoyed with just the lyrics because they were dumb and there was too many mentions of like the king and like things that were like so directly part of the plot that it was like, but the king is trying to take all our wishes away. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we know you don't have to sing it. Like, don't sing it directly like that. That's weird. Like,
Stop doing
don't.
that.
And it's just a wasted opportunity for some of the talent that they had in this too, where I'm like, I bet these people are ticked that they are part
Right.
of this project. Oh,
Mhm.
it's too bad because the animation style I thought was interesting too, because it's almost like a mix of 3D and 2D, which was
Mhm.
okay. And I think a lot of the images, like if you freeze frame them, they're pretty to look at. But
Yeah.
the writing is just
Bad.
big, big bad. And
That's upsetting.
I know I was upset too because my mom and I were like super excited about this movie to come out when we saw the trailer because we're like, a cute little goat is going to be in this. And we were just so thrilled because, we're the goat people.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh my gosh, a movie with a goat. That's going to be awesome.
Mhm.
I'm so disappointed.
I'm sorry for
They
you.
wasted this cute animated goat. What a disappointment. But I don't know. I guess they have like a 40% Rotten Tomatoes. It's not zero. So
Yeah, it's not zero.
but it's definitely probably going to go down into the realm of like, did you ever watch Disney's Chicken Little?
No, I never seen
Oh my
Chicken
gosh,
Little.
that one was terrible too. I I like most Disney movies, even the ones that are pretty bad. I still like, but Chicken Little was also really bad, and yeah, just not a fan of Wish either. They were also weird. You mentioned it being like an anniversary thing. There were also weird fallouts to other Disney movies like Bambi and Robin Hood and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, Mary Poppins, and they were too on the nose. Where
Mm.
he was like, "I'm gonna pop this bubble like Mary Poppins," and okay, we get it. So yeah,
We get it.
mm,
Okay.
not a
Interesting.
not a fan.
Not a
So
fan.
I haven't been enjoying too much. I you
Fair
asked what I was
enough.
reading, watching, and enjoying.
Not
Not
much.
too much. Not too much.
That's fair.
The Last Watch is keeping me afloat this week.
Sometimes you need it. Sometimes you need one thing to just
I
hold
know
your head
that
above
that's my
water.
one thing.
Got
Hannah,
it.
what have you been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Well, in the scheme of not liking or theme, I guess, of not liking things,
I know.
I I
No,
did
I'm
what I
afraid.
always do when I'm not mentally healthy, and I listened to a
SBU?
Megan Miranda book.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say SBU. I was like,
Well, I have been falling asleep to SVU because Paul's been watching it because he can watch like a couple of episodes after I fall asleep, but I don't care. Um so he has been watching SVU, and there are certain episodes where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so thankful that I slept through that. But I listened to a Megan Miranda book
okay.
because more were available to me at the library. And I was like, I'm in an emotionally unstable place. I will listen to a book called The Perfect Stranger. And Laura, when I tell you, I pulled up my story graph to see what I have been reading, watching, and or enjoying. And
Mhm.
I looked at the fact that I just listened to this book not too long ago. I finished last week. And all I could think was, what was the plot of that? And I sat there for a good
I
60
read it, but
seconds
what happened?
listening to you talk about stuff. And I was like, The Perfect Stranger. What was that about? There was a
Oh
perfect
no.
stranger in it. And I was like, I specifically cannot remember this book. I memory hold this so hard, and I had to click on it to look at the plot of this
Oh
book
no.
because it didn't exist in my mind. No.
Also, that title is so dull in
Okay,
terms
all
of a
of her
thriller.
books are so dull, and like they pass the time, and like I don't have to listen to them and care about
Hmm.
them because they are the most boring books, but
Yeah.
they go down smooth. Like all of her books are just like the most beige white woman titles. A Few Missing Girls. It's actually All the Missing Girls. We just
Yeah.
renamed it.
All of them.
Daughter of Mine.
Oh
Fragments of the
gosh.
Lost, The Girl from Widow Hills, The Last House Guest, The Last to Vanish, The Only Survivors, The Perfect Stranger, The Safest Lies, Such a Quiet Place. It's
How
always
does she
like
have so many books? Good
because
Lord.
because she makes them very beige, Laura. They're not good.
I
And
suppose.
you forget about them. Like I have listened to many of these books, guys. If you held a gun to my head and picked out random ones, couldn't tell you a thing about them. Couldn't be bothered.
Starts
Uh
talking about a Mega Miranda book, and then
yeah.
in All the Missing Girls, and they're like, "But that was the perfect stranger."
It was it, but was it? So this book was one of her books that came out a while ago, and they finally put the audiobook on Libby. So
People
this
are gonna read the
follows
show notes and be like, "Again with the
uh,
Mega Miranda."
so I'm sorry. I have to keep bringing back to her because this is my Law and Order SVU of books. Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes you need a book that you don't
Yes.
care about and you can just listen to and let it wash over you like a coma. Like
Honestly, I will say thrillers are very easy to listen to.
they're so easy to listen to. But this one was bad. Like it was even worse
I love
from
when you
a
say it like that.
Megan
Bad.
bad. It was bad. I like Megan Miranda books. I do grade on a curve. I do grade these a little bit nicer than I would other books. I'm not as
Okay.
hard on them. I gave it a 1.5 star after I
Oh my.
realized I couldn't remember any of this book
Oh my.
because it's just
And that's
so
the curve?
that it's so tropey. It's one of her worst ones, in my opinion. And like sometimes her
Oh
bad
my.
ones I like better than her good ones. Because sometimes the bad ones I'm like, at least you tried something. This one, it felt like she didn't try anything. It felt like she was like, I write a book a year. I haven't done that yet. It's October. Might as well spit this one out. Because it follows this woman who, like, A, has nothing going on in her life, which is
Mhm.
most of Megan Miranda characters. Do they have interests? Do
She was
they
probably a
have
journalist somewhere
she
and then had
was
to
a
and
journalist.
then had to return home to her small town.
Oh my gosh. You have almost many of the details correct. So she was a
You know what?
journalist.
Why don't I write a thriller?
You should. You should. Because like you could read this
I
book.
probably could make a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. We should just start writing
Could I make
thrillers.
$100,000 and not go on the circle if I just wrote some thrillers?
I think so, actually. And then you wouldn't have to go in the circle, so it might
I
be
also have a super white woman name. It'd be perfect for books.
you would have the best. I mean, Megan Miranda, Laura, last name. Like it just works.
I also have two first names. Like, my last name is a first name, so it's perfect.
It is perfect. So this is a woman who was a journalist for like true crime journalism, which didn't really
Mhm.
know that that was still a field you got into, but okay.
Eh,
And
apparently.
she worked in Boston, and then she writes a story, and you find out that I'm gonna ruin this book, it doesn't matter.
That's fine.
You find out that she like published the story with an unnamed source who ends up being herself. And then
She published it with an unnamed source who ends up being herself. She indeed was the source.
and you're not allowed to do that,
I
and so a
can't tell
lot
you
of
who my
this
sources are. It's me.
and
Source.
so that's the problem. Like she had this background relationship where her best friend was in love with a bad man, and the bad man did something to her, and then she figured out he had done something to other people, and she was like, well, I'm gonna come forward with this. And so she vaguely mentions him in a way that's like so wishy-washy, but then proceeds to like call up her friend and being like, you know, where I vaguely answered your husband, the truth is gonna come out. And it's like, what are you talking about? You vaguely referenced him. I don't understand. And so she like gets turned in because she did something unethical, and she has to leave the paper in disgrace. This is all backstory. This isn't
She leaves
actually
the
the
paper
plot
into
of the
disgrace.
novel.
You're
This
not even
is
there yet? Oh my
no, this isn't
gosh.
the plot of the novel. This is just the background that comes out as the story goes on,
Of course,
Laura.
because it's going to be one of those that's told with flashbacks too, flashback
Exactly.
chapters.
And
God, I
so
should have wrote
she,
this.
well, it's not exactly flashback, but it's like one of those where it's like, yeah, I wasn't always like this. And so then she leaves the paper in disgrace and she moves to a tiny, tiny town because she followed this woman who she lived with right after the bad thing happened to her, who she runs into. And the woman was doing Doctors Without Borders or something. I forget.
Okay.
And so then they move to this like middle of nowhere town and she becomes a
Usually they
teacher.
need that in Massachusetts, like
Yeah,
Doctors Without
exactly. Well,
Borders.
no, she had like gone overseas or whatever.
Oh,
And
I
so
thought you meant
no,
she
no, no.
moved there. I'm like,
No,
yeah,
no, no.
Massachusetts is usually where they send them.
And so they go to this like little town and she becomes a teacher and like her friend does stuff under the table and then the friend goes missing the same weekend that a woman who looks just like the main character gets beaten almost to death and is in a coma.
Mhm.
And they all
Great.
think that it's this coach who was harassing this woman, the main character. So like he had an obsession with these people or something or whatever. And he kept like calling her and breathing into the phone. But then we find out that it's not the coach, it's actually a student who's obsessed with her. And so the layers of this book are so discombobulated and so stupid. I'm just like, why do what? And so in the end, it ends up that the girl who was beaten almost half to death was actually the cousin of the friend who she moved with. And they actually knew each other for a long time, but the friend used a fake name and she didn't think to ask enough questions, even though she's an investigative journalist. She was
Hannah,
just
I'm not gonna
along.
lie to you. My soul has left my body.
Anyway, she ends up having sex with the detective who's investigating
Of course
all,
she does.
and they end up in a relationship over reasons. I this is so dumb. It
Oh
was
my gosh.
this, I think, was the worst Megan Miranda book. Like, I didn't think about it until just now, but I think this was the worst one I've read of hers.
Wow.
And it was, and that's saying a lot. That's saying it after a few missing girls. The Perfect Stranger was so dumb because I was like, this
Oh
character
no.
has nothing going on. And the entire premise is she doesn't ask enough questions about her roommate. And I was like, but you're an investigative journalist. What were you doing?
Why does she not ask any questions? That's her job.
Your job is true crime. And this woman who's like, yeah, I only accept money under the table and I don't get mail to the house.
Oh
And
my
I
gosh.
randomly steal things. And she's like, what a quirky little girl. And it's like, what are you talking about? This was a really bad book, guys.
I I freak out if like someone smiles at me when I walk by them on the sidewalk.
Honestly, this woman was almost murdered by a sociopath. That's the bad thing that happened to her. This man tried to like murder her and then failed a
Okay.
bit. I don't know how. She doesn't know how. She blacked out and she came to and she was alive. But like she she was almost murdered and then she moves in with this girl and asks no further question. And later they're like, she wasn't in
Didn't even do
Doctors
an
Without
interview.
Borders. And it's like, this is a flighty girl who
Obviously.
robs people. Of course she wasn't in that. And so it was really, really stupid. It was the worst one I've read yet. And I honestly legitimately forgot all of the plot after I read it. I didn't even think about it until now. And now talking to you about it, I'm like, no, I had a bad time. It was a bad time, everyone.
I will say that there is a realistic piece of that, and it's that person claiming that they went to Doctors Without Borders. Like, can I tell you the number of people I know that will make really outlandish claims about themselves? Like, they're
Oh,
usually
yeah.
great things that they've done where they're like, yes, actually, I was second in command to the Surgeon General. And I'm like, wow, you were? You, you mow lawns for a living now. What happened? Like, I'm confused.
That's the amount of people I have to talk to on the phone who tell me they have a personal relationship with like the highest person in our company. And I'm always like, no, you don't.
And I have had people tell me that they are best friends with my husband. And I'm like,
Laura's husband runs their shop.
yeah. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. And they don't make the connection that I am the wife. And so they'll continue with like what good friends they are. And I'm like, oh, I've never heard of you. Must not be that good of a friend.
I would pay you $100,000. I won't, but I would jokingly pay you $100,000 to go. Well, ask my husband about it when we get home, and just like
I mean,
start
I've
doing
mentioned that kind
that.
of stuff before. It doesn't phase people. Apparently, they don't make the connection.
People will just say stuff to get what they want, and it's
Well,
so
honestly, I think a lot of it, like working in customer service is weird,
yeah.
where people want to tell you details about their life and also inflate themselves up to a certain amount where they think that they're very impressive, and it's just like, I don't know you. I'm just trying to sell you this $4 item and wanting you to leave.
I just need an apartment because I'm running from a man who almost murdered me. I don't care that much.
Why do we care?
Yeah, people give way too many details about themselves, and I do it too sometimes. Like, and I don't know why, but it is something inherently human to overshare and to be like, well, you don't know me, so I'll just tell you things. And it's like,
I
but
know,
why?
but it's
Why
also
can't we mind
baffling.
our own business?
It's also baffling though, as like someone who like this is gonna sound terrible when I say this because I was just previously talking about like I don't understand why people wouldn't like me. But this is gonna sound terrible when I say this, but I'm someone who I don't care about a lot of these
Yeah.
random stories, like people coming and trying to tell me about like their surgery and all the details of the
Oh
week
my
following their
gosh.
surgery that they had. And I'm just like, why are you telling me? This sounds like something to talk about with your doctor. I I
And
don't know
something
that I need to know about how many times you had to rebandage that. Like that seems not like I'm the
and
person to
then when they
talk
go to
to.
their doctor, they won't tell them. And it's just like, but
Yep,
why didn't you tell them? You will tell a stranger on the street all of your
exactly.
deepest, darkest secrets.
And
I
something about me like brings out that kind of information in people. And I don't know if it's because I'm actively trying to not get people's backstories and info. And
well, I also think
I'm
it's a
not trying
customer
to connect with them.
service thing.
It
Because
is.
like
It
customer
absolutely is. It
service,
happens to lots of people.
people want like I guess it's very specific where there are not many opportunities in life where you can just talk at a person,
No.
which
And
it
they
should
have to
happen
listen.
in therapy.
Yes.
Most people who
They get
just
paid.
dump on customer service people should just go to therapy.
Mhm.
But no, there's something inherently like, oh, I get to talk at you. And
Mhm.
like I work in human resources and the amount of people who tell me their deepest, darkest secrets, and I'm like, don't tell your HR professional
Like,
that. Like
no,
I can't
don't.
ask certain questions, so
TMI.
it's none of my business. And also shouldn't be my business. I
Right.
shouldn't know these things because like keep that to yourself. Um and I will just have people like tell me something, and it's so hard because like as like specifically customer service, you're supposed to be like relational. Me, I'm supposed to be inherently professional in everything I
Like
do.
unbiased. Yeah.
So I have to be like, they will tell me the worst thing I have ever heard, and then I have to be like, okay, but I need that paperwork on Tuesday.
And now would you recite the act of reconciliation?
Yeah, and can I get that paperwork I asked for, which was the only thing I wanted?
I'm sorry, but you didn't say forgive me, Father, for I have sinned before you started your confession.
It's so strange and it's always uncomfortable. And like I was trained in the law, so I can do it. But it's always one of
Sure.
those things where I'm like, this has to be really uncomfortable for people to just learn how to do this. Because like you just have to sit there in discomfort and be like, uh-huh, yes, thank you. And just move on with your
I will
day.
say you have made a good point that in customer service, like the type of work I do, so just brief detail, like my husband and I own a small business. And so working in customer service, you are expected to maintain a certain energy level and interact with
Yes.
customers at in a certain way. And that doesn't mean just business owners, like people who work in food service or any kind of service at all
Related.
are
Yeah.
expected to maintain the certain energy level and a tone when they are
Mm-hmm.
dealing with customers. Otherwise, people literally get mad.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you made a good point because in customer service, it's almost like the tone that you use and the energy that you have to have almost invites people in because
Yes.
they think like, oh, she's so nice and she
Mm-hmm.
smiled at me and asked how I was doing.
So I'm going to
He
tell
wants to
her
know
about my
about my
open
wound.
wounds.
He
I think,
wants to
guys,
know
I think
about
Laura
my
was told
kidney
about a wound
stones.
this week.
She wants to know about my kidney stones and how they dislodged all of them. Like,
Oh,
okay.
ew. That's very specific.
I know way too many details about people, not just
Yeah.
health related, in general.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, yeah, it's just one of those
But
things.
Hannah, that
But
got way off the rails.
that
What
did
else
go
have you
off the
been
rail. So
enjoying?
I did not enjoy the perfect stranger, but
Yes.
the imperfect boring
It's a
woman.
very imperfect stranger.
I also did finish The Sword of Kagan or Kaigen
Yeah.
for our buddy read, and what a fantastic book. I
I know.
adored this. I'm so sad. Apparently ML Wang like took off the other books in the series
I
from
thought this was a
distribution.
standalone.
So it is technically a standalone, but the final chapter, you do meet characters who are in other novels in the same
Okay, don't spoil
universe.
too much because I'm like at the 60% mark in that
Okay.
because I was also trying to participate in Mega Man.
So,
May's not over.
okay, no. It's not over. It's not over yet. So this is not a spoiler, but you do get introduced to characters who are in the same universe. And those other books appear to be out of circulation now. And that
Mhm.
disappoints me because I wanted to continue.
Sure, you want to visit those characters again.
But Sword of Kaigen is a beautiful novel, and I hope everyone reads it. Participate in Mega May. Mega May is not over yet, guys. So you could
It's not
finish it.
over.
But it's not
I'm
over.
still
You still
reading.
have,
Everyone else
yeah.
is done, but I'm still participating in Mega
Not
May. Half
everyone
the
is
month's
done,
left.
but many people are done because it's a really good book. It's just
Mhm.
really good. I
I will
really
say for
loved.
me, like personally, I have been reading slowly lately, so that's the main problem. But also a lot of the things that are handled in this book feel very heavy to me
Yes.
personally. And so I think a lot of the things that were happening in the book, like I would read some of these chapters and then I'd be like, you know what, I need to take a beat.
Yeah.
And so then I would go read some chapters of the last watch and be like, what has happened? Oh my gosh.
Check trigger warnings on
Yeah,
the Sword of Kaigen because it is rife with them. It is a unique fantasy with the fact that it's told from the perspective of like a family
yeah.
and an actual family with different generations and different ages. And I think that that's a pretty important type of thing to see, especially with women who aren't 20 and starting off in
Right.
the prime of their life. Um,
It's
but it
nice to not
does.
have a protagonist that's like, I'm a young hot person.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's just like, I'm a little flabby. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Thank you
Dig
for
it.
pointing that out. Um, but I really adored this novel. So I think everyone should go read it. I think it was a great buddy read.
You know what? I'm gonna pat myself on the back because I suggested this for the buddy read.
Good job, Laura. Yeah, I think you were the one. And like, I was just like, yeah, I'll put it out there. And so you did a great job. Laura's
I
always a
I had
better picker than
suggested
I am.
I had suggested
Uh,
multiple books. So
well, that's the one that won, so that's the most
yes.
important one. So I loved that. And then for enjoying, because I haven't been watching too much. I mean, I'm still watching
Mhm.
Psych with my partner. Um, I have been re-listening to old episodes of How Did This Get Made?
Mhm.
And that is such a freaking good podcast, and it makes me laugh
You know
out
what?
loud all the
Every now and
time.
then when I need a boost, I listen to their episode on cats.
Oh my gosh. I so I went back into their backlog because like they don't have all of their episodes out all the time.
I know.
So sometimes you'll
Disappointing.
get like a random like gem. And recently I discovered that right now out still is their Deep Blue Sea episode, which which
That
is
movie.
the funniest episode of How Did This Get Made? It's one of my favorites. Like just them talking about LL Cool J and like why he is in that movie and why his name is Preacher and if the bird is real in that movie. And
Mhm.
I guys, I will admit it, I've never seen this movie, but I have listened to that episode well over like three to five times in my lifetime. I
Yep.
have listened to Deep Blue Sea, and you know what? My head is like a shark fin. I'm a big fan. Like,
That's
I
a great
just,
podcast.
it's such a good podcast. I freaking love Jason Mantzoukas. The fact
Me
that he is
too.
in Percy Jackson just makes me happy.
My husband and I
He's,
were talking about this the other day because we saw him well, we were watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine again.
oh, of
And
course,
we saw him on there and we were like, how has he not had a show that he's starring in yet? Like,
right?
why has he not had any starring roles? He often plays like he even says like he plays the dirtbag. And
Yeah.
he keeps getting typecast into like all these dirtbag roles, but he's phenomenal. He's so hilarious. And I
Yes.
really wish that somebody would write a show for that man.
I agree. I love him so much. He's so
He's so
funny.
funny.
And like I once got my roommate a t-shirt that said my sexuality or my sexual preference is Jason Mantzoukas screaming at anything. And I'm like,
Accurate.
yeah, accurate. He is one of the sexiest men alive, and no one understands why, but women get it, okay?
You didn't
Uh
recognize that was me up there. That guy has a flat ass.
Oh, he was in a relationship with Connie Britton. Could you like that is how much swag he has. I can't stand it. He's amazing. He's
He
so
is great.
awesome. So
I
anyway,
will
I've
say
been
though, June is amazing too. I
oh
really love June and Paul.
June and Paul are one of the most wholesome couple. If I ever found out that they did not get along, I would die. Like I would be so
The
upset.
way they interact with each other is so funny to me though. Like even just like the beginning where she's like, "Hello, Paul."
Hello, Paul. How are you?
And I'm like, "You guys are married."
They are married. And I remember when I first started listening to that, I didn't
I didn't know
realize
they
they
were
were
married.
married. Yeah, I was just like, oh, this is very polite. And then they
It
always
took
make
me a long
jokes
time to
about
figure it
it.
out.
Right? Because like also they just have two different energies. So finding out they're
Yes.
married, but just like
He's like golden
I
retriever energy.
he is such a golden retriever. It's just like his life. Like he wrote a memoir. It's coming out this year. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna
Mhm.
read Paul Shear's
Absolutely.
memoir. This sounds amazing. And he's so fascinating. He seems like he's always involved with so many things. And then
Hmm.
she's just like, yeah, I sit in my sauna at home. And
Yeah.
I loved the episode where you found out that she had a nail technician doing her
Yep.
nails during one of the podcasts. It's amazing. They're so funny. I love them so much.
They're
So
kind of a cool couple. I will also be disappointed if we find out that details about them like,
I
oh,
mean,
actually they have been in a terrible marriage for years. Like,
they
oh,
they have so many moments where I'm like, that can't, because like I loved there's like an episode where Paul Shear's just talking about and I love that we're talking about a podcast on this podcast, but it's making me happy right now.
meta.
He talks about the fact that like he's watching a movie that he had to watch for the show, and June couldn't be at the show, so she does not watch the episodes if she doesn't have to. And she woke up during the night and she thought it was porn. And she was like, "What are you watching? Turn it off. Turn it off." And I'm like, "See, they have to have a loving relationship.
Uh,
Like you can't
that's
have that
amazing.
story with like, I just love them so much.
They're
So,
great.
I've been re-listening to How Did This Get Made, and it's a good
I dig
time,
it.
guys. But yeah, and then just watching lots of Psych and doing shows for our TV Tuesdays that are coming up. So make
Yes.
sure you keep an eye out for those
People,
because
your Tuesdays are gonna be fun.
or really weird where we suggest you watch a show from the early 2000s that
I forget I said that. Some of your Tuesdays are gonna be really fun.
some of them are Hannah and Danny
Some
Finn
of
finding
them,
out that
oh my
they
gosh.
both watched a show that was very
Some of them
specific to
are
them.
Hannah and Danny Finn leading Laura astray.
Ah, you're welcome, Laura.
Oh
But
my.
thank you, Laura, for suggesting the Year of the Butcher, where we get to
The year
cover
of the Dresden.
the Year of the Dresden. I'm sorry. It's just so, they're just one and the same. And it doesn't help that Jim Butcher's name is so big on these books.
Yeah.
And then it's like underneath a novel of the Dresden Files.
You know that To Sleep and to See a Stars book by Christopher Paolini? Have you seen that?
Yes. Yes.
He has reached such a level that they don't even have to put his book title on the spine anymore. It just says Paolini, like huge on the side. And that's what that kind of reminds me of, where it's like Jim Butcher's name is almost bigger than the title of the book.
I mean, yes, you are correct. But should we dive in to the book, Laura?
Yeah, Hannah, I took excellent notes on this because I have to return the book to the library soon. And I was like,
Oh,
you know what?
okay.
You got to take notes so you don't
Did
forget
you
what
want to do the
happened.
plot breakdown, Laura?
I don't have enough to do the plot breakdown. It would be a
uh,
very skeleton plot,
because
but
guys, here's the thing.
I will
Hannah's
be
going.
contributing with my notes.
Sometimes Hannah writes a detailed plot, and sometimes she goes a little wild, and she just kind of goes off the cuff. And today is going off the cuff, so I do apologize.
I
But
mean, I
also,
have quite a bit here.
yeah, we'll get there. So we open with
Can
Harry,
I give you my
and
first note, though?
yes, please do.
Before the book even started, my first note was full moon. Please don't be a werewolf story.
Oh, Laura. Oh. How could it not have been? Also,
I
can we
know. Why
I
did
know
I
that
set myself up like that?
I know that we're now dying on the hill of they make Harry Dresden way too old for this 24-year-old man,
Yeah,
but look
yeah.
at that. That is not a 24-year-old man on the
No,
cover.
he looks too old.
That man has lived through a war. I don't know what else to tell you. Um anyway, his father's a magician. So we open
Full moon,
on
it's definitely not a werewolf
it's
story.
it's not a werewolf, Laura. There are many types of werewolves, so maybe it's not the werewolf that you
Okay, you
expect,
know what?
okay?
We gotta get into it because that needs to be talked about for 10 years.
So we open on Harry in McNally's pub talking to a woman who also has a basic white woman's name. Her name is Kim Delaney. I will not remember that in future stories.
I put that in here. Woman named Kim, another basic white woman name. And then he says he never welched on a deal, but he does it to non-humans all the time.
So he does welch on deals.
Yes. And I said, but he just can't do it to Kim.
He can't do it to Kim because he is I forget the way that Jim Butcher phrases it, but I remember I was offended by it, where he was like, I just believe in treating women like a knight, but it borders on chauvinism in this day and age. No. Being polite and helpful.
I don't think
that's
not in this chapter yet, because I have specifically marked that point where I need you to read that quote.
Okay, perfect. I will get to it then. So anyway, Kim decided to give Harry a steak dinner because he is eating ramen and he is very poor.
He kind of complains about it and is like, that's not really enough payment. I'm like, okay, it's a steak dinner, Harry.
Apparently she is his intern, because he sometimes has interns from time to time.
Okay, cool.
Harry is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So he says she wants to like pick his brain about something that she saw, and it's this circle with magic in it, and it's written on a napkin because she's a very official intern. And we also find out
it's like a Dairy Queen napkin.
Well, we also find out that like Mac won't serve his own food, so he's like, well, you got 2 legs, pick up my food. And I'm like, that's fine, but also a little bizarre for what we're told about this bar,
right?
And so he is just sitting there talking to her about this napkin. And again, Harry keeps wanting to tell us that he's a 24-year-old man and we should give him the benefit of the doubt. But he also says things like, Kim looks up to me. And I'm like, how old is she? 20? Like, what are you talking about? You guys are peers.
How old are you, Kim?
It sounds like they're peers. They sound like the same age. Or he's hanging out with an underage girl in a bar, which also, you're 24. Don't do that anymore.
Not great.
And so anyway, the circles, one is for protections against spirits, one is against mortal flesh. And then she's like, but what's this third one? And he's like, nothing. And she's like, but it should be flesh and spirit, but those don't exist, right? And he's like, totally not, according to the White Council, but I can't tell her that. And it's like, wow,
I can keep.
Also, it's not a very good secret if they just have little magic circles sitting around being like, hey,
if people can write it down on a napkin that can get into anyone's hands.
And these creatures probably definitely exist if it's on a napkin protecting you from it. And she kind of points that out, and he's like, no, Kim, you're just not going to get there. It's
unfortunately, you just will never understand this for reasons.
And so then he goes to like apologize to her, and she just stomps out of the room because women be stomping. And he's like, well, I can't tell her because the White Council, they
have
don't
to
like me very much. And then his stomach sours because I always hate in books where people are like starving and then all of a sudden they're like, but I couldn't eat a bite. And I'm like, in what world? In what world is this 24-year-old man not still starving?
I'm just saying, like, my husband will put away a whole casserole dish. So there's no way.
Here's the thing. I felt a little ill today and I ate a good cup of custard and thought I should probably put this back. I don't feel that well, and I still considered eating it.
Yeah,
your stomach is fine, Harry. It sounds like you work out. Anyway, Murphy shows up.
Works out. He just can't get a date.
He's so sexy, but his eyes. So anyway, all of a sudden, Murphy pops up, and Murphy hasn't been hiring him very much, which is also confusing because in one
he says, "I don't blame her," and then he blames her.
Then he blames her profusely. He also says things like, I don't know why she's not hiring me. And also, it's probably because the events of the last novel. But
exactly.
Like, it's very confusing. He's very wishy-washy.
Also, and let's not forget that she has a new haircut now and she looks extremely cute.
Well, I mean, she is 30, so she's not a viable option for Harry Dresden. So I don't know why he's talking about it.
He mentions it several times, though, about how good looking she is and how with that haircut she just got a tight little body. And I'm like, how did that affect
I don't know
anything?
We also find out that there was like this huge expose in the Tribune about how they hire magicians, aka wizards. But like, so that's also why she's not hiring him. So it's like, Harry, it seems like she gave you many reasons to not hire
and then she does offer him a job and he's kind of a D-bag about it. He's like, Call my office if you want to give me a job, and don't
Okay.
leave me hanging for a month. And it's like, okay.
But anyway, he does follow her, and I think he leaves his food there, which I'm like, you're poor. Package
Mhm.
that up and take it with you, Harry. You have leftovers. It's a steak
Yeah.
sandwich. It will keep.
Mhm.
But anyway, they drive out to Rosemont near O'Hare, and this is a moment where I got so confused. I had to read the page twice, and this is what people will probably hate about us is I bring up the fact that I lived in Chicago a lot, famously,
I went to a concert in Rosemont.
but this
Very
is
Manilow.
something very Manilow. So Laura is a Fanalo, and she has been in Rosemont, so she knows too.
I know
But
exactly.
I was reading this page, and he kept talking about how they were going down the JFK. And I was like, are we in New York? And I got really confused and I read it twice and I was like, JFK, where's the JFK? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's the Kennedy Expressway. And then I felt stupid
Oh,
because I didn't think about the fact that the Kennedy Expressway is definitely named after JFK. So I should have
yeah.
known that. But JFK has a very specific connotation to New York Airport.
Yeah.
So it's called the Kennedy Expressway. Obviously,
I
that's
also call it
fine.
the Kennedy, but I don't know why.
It's because it's called the Kennedy Expressway. That's the expressway, but it's
Okay.
not called the JFK Expressway. Like that's
Yeah.
actually not. I had to Google JFK Chicago, and you want to know what popped up? Flights to New York. So it's
Okay.
not like a colloquial like JFK is
Sure.
it's the Kennedy. And I got confused, so I felt stupid, but then I felt
Mhm.
less stupid because I was like, no, 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 no one calls it the JFK. This is a person who researched it. It was like Kennedy Expressway, JFK. I bet they call it that. I'm like, nobody does.
No.
Not a single person calls it the
No.
JFK. I am sorry to tell you. And so anyway, they drive out to this place and there's a
Yeah,
murdered
there it's
body
like a
there.
it's a building that he has, like a varsity building or something like that. Isn't that what it is?
It's a it's a building, and guess what? It is another suburban nightclub.
Yeah, of
And it
course.
is Marconi's new version of the
Mhm.
varsity, which he had shut down in the last novel. And I loved this also because he says that Marconi leads his bad business dealings for downtown Chicago and his clean buildings for the suburbs. And I'm like, his
I don't
clean
get it.
nightclub? Why wouldn't you just have that in Chicago? You want to know
I
where I
don't
don't
think
want
that people
people.
were going to nightclubs a lot in the suburbs, are they?
No, well, because like, why would you go to a specific location where you have to drive if you've been drinking? Like,
People in the suburbs have toddlers or in their 60s. They're not going to nightclubs.
but apparently that's where all the nightclub things are happening.
Okay.
Anyway, there is a murdered body there,
Oh, this is
and
pretty gross though, because like its face is ripped off and its eyes were eaten.
like
And
there are
I put a
claw
note. This
marks.
is definitely a werewolf story, and I am not thrilled.
I was like when Laura has notes. Um, and
It's
so
funny though. It says this corpse had face ripped off and eyes eaten.
also
Gross. This seems like a werewolf story, and I am not thrilled.
Also, Murphy needs Harry Dresden to tell her it's probably definitely a werewolf. And she's like, I was hoping you wouldn't say that. And I was like, well, it
Well,
seems like you
okay.
knew.
The victim first, we can't get too far here because I have several notes. The victim
Okay.
is named Spike, and he has a because of his haircut, which made me laugh because James Marsden's is Spike
He is Spike from Buffy.
from Buffy, and he had spiky hair. So ROFL. That's what I put. And then I have paw print discovered. Of course, it's a werewolf. Why didn't I think it would be full moon palm face emoji?
Fool you twice. Shame on you. No. So Spike was murdered and it was definitely a
Yes.
werewolf. And also they walked onto this crime scene very easily for what happens
Yeah.
next. Because all of a sudden the FBI shows up and we meet Denton, the FBI agent, and he
This whole
alleged
interaction is bizarre.
this is the most insane moment I have read in a while.
I
And
was
I just
shocked,
read that stupid
honestly.
Megan Miranda book, so that's impressive. But like, so
Denton
Denton
like comes
shows
in.
up.
He's like an older guy that's hot, and Dresden's like, you know what? He's in pretty good shape
Hey,
and pretty hot, and I kind of get his vibe, but I'm
Harry
still
Dresden
hotter.
might be a bi king, so just think about that.
But
But
he's like,
anyway,
he's tall and fit, but not as tall and fit as me.
well, because nobody is hot like Dresden, no one's
I
thick like Dresden. Um, And so all of a sudden he's like, Murphy, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. You've been told to stay away from these crime scenes. And Dresden was like, she was? And I'm like, man, it was really easy for her to get on here. Isn't this an active crime scene? But okay. And then there is a woman FBI agent who
Agent
is
Benz.
Agent Ben. And Agent Ben is furious that
For
for
why?
reasons. Because she's been put
Because
under a
other
lot of
woman.
pressure. But
She's
like the
furious
reason
because other woman, that means immediate conflict. We
the
can't have
reason
two
given
women.
is the most ACAB thing of the world of
Oh,
like, well, she's just under a lot of pressure. She just cares a lot about this. And it's
yeah,
like,
no.
that's not a reason to do the things that Agent Ben
No.
does. Anyway, so they try to kick Murphy off. They out of the area because she shouldn't be there.
Right.
They mentioned that internal investigations was looking into her and Harry, and he's like, they were. And it's like, wow, this is very specific on why she couldn't hire Harry again. And then Ben goes to physically throw Murphy out. Murphy fights back for reasons and then discharges her
She shoots
weapon.
at her.
She shoots at her. And I was
To
like,
which Harry says, "You crazy bitch." To which I was like, okay, don't prefer that being said, but I would
but
be
also,
shocked and maybe say something there too.
he's
He's
not
got a point.
wrong. He's got a point. And also, they were like, hey, could we all just agree not to make this a thing? And Murphy agrees. And I'm like, her weapon was discharged. She is a federal agent. She has to fill out paperwork for that. Like, that's a rule.
And
You can't,
Dresden was like, really? We're going to cover this up? And I
you,
was like, Harry is the voice of reason?
you can't discharge your weapon without filing paperwork. What are they talking about? This is insane. So anyway, he and Murphy leave and he's just like, what the heck is going on? And Murphy's like, look, I don't want them to kick a fuss. I want to look into this situation. So I'm just trying to mind my P's and Q's.
And
Um,
they even come over to, like, another agent comes over to them and is like, sorry, don't take that too
that's
personally. Like, take it easy on Ben because she's having a hard time right now and she knows somebody who died.
and that is
Like,
like the
okay,
worst thing to say.
maybe
She's
she
a
shouldn't be on
government
active duty
official.
at the
Yeah.
moment.
It's so strange. This is mind-boggling. And I guess like one of the guys has red hair because Harry mentions it an awful, awful
Yes.
lot. And
Like,
he's a younger guy because of
is he
course
a
the
ginger? I
ginger.
couldn't
Yeah.
tell because you mentioned it so many times.
But the ginger is young because of course he is.
Yes.
Redheads
Hey,
can't get
kid.
old, famously.
Hey, kid, get over
How
here. Let me
again,
impart
Harry
some
is
wisdom upon you.
24. How old is this FBI agent? Um,
16.
so anyway, they all leave. The FBI agent is kind of like staring at him. And so then he and Murphy travel back. They kind of do this breakdown about the fact that like Denton is a huge asshole. He's doing everything right, but she still wants to look into these things and investigate. She wants to bring Harry in, but she can't trust him because last time he kept secrets from her. And
Which
he's like, well,
I'm just gonna say, she definitely has points. Like, she
oh
has
no,
a right to be mad because, like, he's not upfront with her. And then they make, like, a slight pact. And he's like, I promise, like, I was just doing to protect you. And, like, I promise that I won't do that anymore. And she's like, okay, let's be upfront with each other. And they kind of make a pact. And then it's stupid. He shouldn't have even said anything.
no, because he immediately breaks it. And also, here's the thing that I don't understand. He lives in this world where he is ruled by this overseeing big bad council, very
Mhm.
early 2000s magic system, whatever. He should be able to tell her, hey, there are things in my world you know nothing about, and I'm physically unable to talk to you about them. I do
Mhm.
my best. That's fine to say.
And
Does he
that
ever
took you how
tell
long?
her?
10
No.
seconds to say that?
He just never explains himself. He's just like, you would never understand. And then he looks off into the distance like an
You know,
asshole.
I
Like,
had a couple notes here where I said he's always saying that he's trying to protect her, and I don't like that whole like he treats her like a porcelain doll thing.
mm,
That drives me nuts. But also another thing that was annoying to me is how he was like reflecting that Chicago is safe because Karen Murphy's here and Karen does good things for the city. And I'm like, okay, so what you mean is Karen Murphy is good for Chicago and keeping it safe because she's letting
she
you do
hires
things.
you. And that's also, so she also says, like, we really need to look into this case and solve it for reasons, because if we don't, I might be out of a job and you'll end up in jail.
I know. I
Why?
don't understand why he would end up in jail.
It sounds like it's always the like insinuation that internal affairs is just looking to lock up random people and the cops aren't, because they're like, well, internal affairs is investigating the issues of last year and they think I helped like cover it up because like the body went missing on the one guy and so they think you had something to do. It's very gobbledygook reasons and I don't understand. Um but they couldn't hold Harry on anything, so she's safe for right now. But if they could get this win, it would go a long way. And it's like, you're literally trying to hinder a federal
Right.
investigation, and you think that that will help you save your job? Question mark.
Right.
Okay. Um,
But then, like, in
and
the next chapter, like, Dresden, like, for a little while at the beginning, there is like talking about how concerned he is about going to jail. And it's like,
but
oh,
oh, but
okay.
also he does many illegal things. So is he afraid of going to jail? I don't
And that's why I'm confused by that as well, because if he was that concerned, why would he be doing some of this stuff?
Well, and so they start breaking down the crime. A bunch of people are being murdered in different parks at night, usually around the full moon.
Were they
Um,
saying fool or full? That was
they
one
were
of my
saying
notes.
full, but
Okay, because in the audiobook, I couldn't tell, and I said, I can't tell if he's saying full or fool.
he may be saying fool. I would not put it past that author to be like, I will just call it fool for the heck of it.
I mean,
Um,
why not? You have the opportunity.
And so they said that the last person who was murdered was like this red hot industrialist, and he and John
Mhm.
Marconi were business partners in some developmental projects. So, and then tonight another victim was linked to Marconi. So
Okay,
he's
it's at
back.
the end of chapter 4, Hannah, that you need to read the chauvinist
Oh,
quote.
I found it immediately. He goes, I have what might be considered a very out of date and chauvinist attitude about women. I like to treat women like ladies. The implication is if you treat women like ladies, respectfully, you are a
Mhm.
chauvinist. That's not actually what that is. It is actually if you treat women like lesser beings or you treat them like they are only vaginas, then you might be a chauvinist.
And I mean, uh,
And
uh,
he's not
eh,
wrong about his
eh.
implication of himself. Um, so anyway, he also, but this is also in the moment where he drops her off at, or she drops him off at his little beetle car that is blue, but it's not blue.
Right.
And she's like, okay, no more secrets, deal. And during this time, he realizes that they've been followed
By a hot
and
woman.
by a hot woman, and he wants to protect Murphy, who's so good for Chicago because she's such a good cop, but also he
Yeah, and
can't
he's like,
trust
"Don't
her.
worry, I won't leave you out of this. We're in this together." And then 2 seconds later, he's like, "I've got to leave her out."
But anyway, he thought they were being followed, and he was like, you know what? I'm not going to be worried about the person who's following us. I am going to worry about the blood that I took from the crime scene secretly, and I will use it to track, where this blood was left behind. And
Mhm.
so he goes and he uses magic to search for people, and he travels down to the south side. And he goes into this warehouse where he overhears a pack of people. um Pack is
He
meant for
also
that
he's
word.
around UIC, and he mentions like,
Yes,
"Man, this area is so bad, run down."
he means the south side.
Yes.
He just
Thank
means the
you,
south side.
stereotypes.
And also he talks a lot about how these people are super, super nerdy, which I coded as white college students.
He's
He's
like
talking about how
calling
dangerous it
them
is.
computer nerds, basically.
And it's pretty much just like, yeah, he says, looked more at home with a pocket protector, but they're also
Yeah.
like dressed up in like grunge material and leather, like
Mhm.
they're a gang. And it's just white students. Like they're all, I
Yeah.
don't think a black person exists on this page yet.
No,
And
no.
we're 50 pages in. So, it's this group of people talking. They're all talking about how they need to get out of there. Their names are definitely white people names like Billy and Georgia.
Yeah.
And she told them not to move again tonight. He's like, I can handle that bitch. And then this woman comes in. We find out that their gang name is the Alphas, and she kind of like breaks it down. She tells them they're not doing anything tonight, and they've been followed there. And so all of a sudden the lights go off. Someone like
from their Coleman
pushes.
lanterns. It's mentioned many times that these are Coleman lanterns, which
Oh,
I put good advertising.
I also love this because the way that the lights go out, they say join hands now, like they're in a prayer circle. And so Harry like goes to run after them. He gets pushed down,
Mhm.
and then all of a
It's
sudden Murphy
Murphy.
is there. And Murphy is like, "Hey dude, what did you do?" And he's like, "Well, you said no more secrets. What are you doing here?" And she's like, "Well, we were followed, so I
Mhm.
followed the person." And he was like, "Well, I found this place for reasons." And so they're both immediately just breaking their promises to each other.
Yeah.
Um, and they're talking about wolves, they're talking about everything. And you know, they say he says that he'll get her. Oh, he said this earlier, but he reiterates that he will get her a write up on werewolves by the morning.
Well, he's
So
listing like all these. I have this note here. He's listing all of these superior qualities that werewolves have. Murphy says that doesn't mean anything. I don't know why it doesn't. This all seems scary. Because he goes on like this whole list of ways that werewolves are superior to them and could kill them. And then Murphy's like, that doesn't mean a thing. And I'm like, really? I
Laura's unsettled by it. Murphy
I'm
is
concerned.
Laura. That's why you're not good for Chicago, and Murphy is.
I guess.
And so anyway, Harry goes back to his apartment to hang out with Bob the skeleton.
Oh no.
He talks about how
He
cold
talks
it
about his cool
is.
neighborhood and he's like, there's no tech because I'm a wizard. And then I live in a studio apartment. But then he talks about his decorations, which I thought were strange because he's like, I have rugs everywhere and a
Okay,
bunch of
this
my stuff has burn marks. I'm like, that sounds
this
so
was
creepy.
straight out of the 90s where I'm like, well, you're obviously a 24-year-old man because you think hanging tapestries on the wall is just decorating. Like it's so
Is
specific.
it tapestries though? Because he says rugs.
No, he literally says tapestries and rugs. He says
I only have rugs as a note, but
tapestries hung from my walls, the oldest tapestries.
the oldest ones.
The oldest tapestries. What a weird
That's
word
from
to
like
say out
ancient
loud.
Babylon, actually.
Maybe James Marsters didn't want to say tapestries, so he just changed it to rugs. That feels like audiobook energy
Hannah,
to
can you
me.
explain the burn marks on everything? What's going on with that?
It's to show you that he's eclectic and he also does magic, Laura.
Okay,
He also
all
talks
right,
about how it's all piecemeal because his apartment was blown up in the last book. So
yeah.
anyway, he goes
And then
down.
he also mentions like Mister's back, and he's like, "Yeah, I love that cat. Glad I found him in a dumpster." I'm like, "Oh,
I'm kind of glad he found Mister too in the dumpster.
poor
He's my favorite
Mister.
character
He's
so
missing a
far.
tail, and he's a big cat." Oh,
Anyway, so Bob tells
oh, hold on a second. He goes down in a creepy lab to wake up Bob the Skull and says, "I have some comic books in a pile. Don't ask." What is that? Don't ask. What kind of
because
comic books are they?
I think this was just during the era of comic books were nerdy. And so he was like, well, don't ask, because like I'm just kind of a nerd on the inside. And then he
I
like
was
pushed
concerned
his
why there was a don't ask mention.
oh, I think that was just nerdy speak for like I'm a cool guy. I like comic books in the cool way.
Oh, okay.
And so anyway, he goes down to talk to Bob. He obviously so like here's the thing. He's like, hey Bob, could you tell me how to do the caffeine potion? And I'm like, you think you know how to do that one? Like out of all the ones, Harry, do
But
you
here's
not
the thing.
remember
They've been
anything you
spending their
do?
time making weight loss potions,
Oh
and
my
then
God.
Bob's like, you know what we should make? Breast enhancement potions. That would be great. Just imagine all the beautiful women we could help.
Bob the prevert.
Okay.
Um and so uh Bob doesn't want to help him by telling him about all the different types of werewolves unless Harry lets him out. Remember when you started an orgy in the last book? Yeah, I'm not letting you out again. And Bob is like,
Hmm.
fine, whatever. But he promises him a book, I guess, because also Bob is a reader.
He's like,
Um,
I'll get you one of those romance books you like. Okay.
okay. So anyway, there are different types of werewolves.
Yeah,
So
this is a big
Laura,
plot
this
dump.
it is a big plot dump. There are different types. There are the
Loup-garoos?
is that what they're called? Uh I forgot about that. So the first type of werewolf is pretty much your straightforward werewolf. They
Mhm.
turn into wolves during the full moon. They have powers, that type of thing. They can just move. They can just turn into them. Uh, you also have the theriomorphs, in general who can do there's hexenwolves, werewolves, and lycanthropes and loup-garou.
Loop
uh
Gurus.
loup-garou. Loup-garou. Okay,
They're
so
the only one. This note that I have is hilarious. Loop Gurus are the only shapeshifters who are hurt by silver bullets, and I feel dumb even typing this.
so he says that, like, no, silver bullets, that's a myth, and then like 3 pages later it's
Yeah,
like loup-garous can be hurt by it.
actually, Loop Gurus can be hurt by
Then
silver
it's
bullets.
not a myth, it's just a little bit generalized.
And he's like,
Like,
look, there's not that many types of shifters. Shapeshifters are not that common, but there are were-buffaloes, and those are conjured by indigenous people.
I mean, at least they mentioned that indigenous people exist. I
Oh,
guess
it
that's a
doesn't
win.
say indigenous people. I
I
changed
mean,
it in
yes,
my
I know.
notes.
But like it was also early 2000s, but at least he did say that, but he did also call them shamans. So, well,
Oh.
what you gonna do? And so there's
Also,
ones who can.
I have a note. Oh, go ahead, Hannah.
Oh, I was just gonna like say he kind of goes through those. Hexen wolves are ones that like have a magic coat that they could put on to turn them into a
Yeah.
werewolf. Um,
Some of this is so ridiculous.
and
And there's
loop
just, I was thinking, like, there's just too many kinds.
there were far too many kinds. This was lycanthropes, is a natural channel for the spirit of rage. They turn into the beast, but only inside his head, so you don't actually transform into a werewolf. And then loop gurus are kind of like the most dangerous ones. And I was like, I wonder which one we're dealing with here. Um, and
Obviously, the most dangerous.
he's just like, well, the only reason you'd ever have a loop guru is if a lot of people were dead every time the full moon came around. And he's like, why'd you ask? And Harry's like, a lot of dead
A
people are
lot of
turning up
people are dead
around the
around the
full
full
moon.
moon.
Um,
I
and
also just wanted
so
to mention, though, that it's mentioned in this chapter. I don't know, did we know before that Harry killed his own teacher, Justin, by incinerating him?
I don't think we knew that by incinerating him, but I also did not know that his teacher's name was
It was
Justin.
Justin. My note says Harry killed his own teacher, Justin, LOL, by incinerating.
Do you think Justin was an evil wizard because he was a wizard named Justin?
He's just mad about being named Justin.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so Bob just wants to go out, but Harry is like,
Harry's like, I'm gonna give you a mild talking to about consent, and you're gonna ignore it.
oh, also with the silver bullets that killed the Loop Gurus, it has to be specifically, it has to be silver bullets that you inherited from your family. Why? Why is that why is that the
His dad
rule?
died, and he doesn't have any silver bullets to kill Luke Cruz.
It's like one of the only things that can kill them, and I'm like, that is a really who
I'm
who
crying.
could you imagine if you had a family
Cruz.
member? Could you imagine if your family member was like, listen, when I die, I am giving you silver bullets, and you can't give them away because then their magic will die.
Oh my gosh.
Because the implication is it has to be passed down for the family, right? So, like,
Yeah.
the second someone
No, you're
sells their
right.
silver bullets, that is such a small pool of people.
Mhm.
Why did why did Jim Butcher write it that specifically? That's so
Because
difficult.
that means that only a few people can take them out.
And also, if they have one dipshit of a relative, they're shit out of luck.
I
Like, that's
know.
so bad. Anyway, so Harry stays up all night just writing his little 4-person breakdown of the different werewolf types. He goes to the police station the next day and he wants to hand it off to Kieran. Here's my
He's
little
dressed
book
nice instead
report.
of his Western shirt, but he kept his duster, he mentions. And
Of
then I
course he
have a
did.
very large note. The audio quality has not improved. Marster's swallowing is able to be heard in this recording.
That is hilarious. Anyway, he also runs into Susan. We find out that they do
You
be
mean that
fucking.
raven-haired hottie who's long of leg?
Yes, he runs into that woman, and we find out they do be fucking,
Yeah,
but not
Dresden's helped her career
often.
out a lot.
Yeah. And she's like, maybe we should have a date and you can tell me about those Lobo mysteries. Also, the fact that this is called the Lobo killings
Mm-hmm.
is insulting because I'm like, everything is pointing to the fact that these are werewolves. Lobo is that's barely veiled. Like, what are people talking about? Everyone knows that this is
This is
werewolf
just screaming
related.
werewolves all over the place. Like the fact that I thought a book called Full Moon maybe wouldn't be about werewolves, and then
Look,
within 2 pages was like, it's a book
Laura,
about
I
werewolves.
said it before and I'll say it again. You're bad for Chicago, and Murphy
I,
is good for Chicago because she
I,
sees these details and she picks
you
up
know
on
what?
them.
It's not great. I
Anyway,
also just have
so
some notes that Dresden was watching her chest rise and fall and mentioned it being lovely.
okay, also
And I can't buy this man being 25. That's the biggest fantasy storyline in this book. I can buy loop gurus and silver bullets. I cannot
You can
buy this
buy
man being
handing down silver
25.
bullets on the family line.
That's
Anyway,
more believable.
also, Susan is constantly just using her sexuality to confuse him into telling her
Oh yeah.
stories. And I'm like, man, she can't be actually just a talented journalist. She has to be using sex as a weapon.
She's like, let me give you a look of my cleavage if you tell me what's going on with there and what in there and why they're after Karen Murphy. And he's like, look, I'll tell you everything because you're hot and good at your job.
That's the only reason. Anyway, he also runs into Denton because, of course, we just need like a hey, let's meet all the cast of characters
Yeah, we
here.
got to bump into them again.
And Denton is like, don't go in there. Internal investigations in there, and they're going to make a big show of it if you're talking to Murphy because you can't be trusted, Dresden.
But he also like knows about Harry and he's like, I've heard about you and you're scum. And it's like, okay. And then he says something about like he might need to use Dresden's skills or something.
Yeah, he also is just like, I want to get it done and I want to help Murphy. And he's a very confusing character. I think he's shady.
Well,
Um,
I have a note here that says Harry is having a hard time reading Denton, so that means that something's up. Like this makes me think he's a non-human character. Like either he's some
Also, I
kind of
wish
werewolf or
Harry.
something himself, or that he is a wizard or something. Because if Harry's having trouble reading him, I'm like, he doesn't have trouble reading any of the other humans. So
It's a weird thing. And also, he doesn't use his looking into people's souls enough, in my opinion.
no,
Use that more often and get a
make
little
some
bit
eye
of a
contact.
yeah, make some eye contact, sir. It's not that hard.
It's also a cool thing. So like this is one of the things that I think is cooler about the whole deal where it's like, okay, you could look in people's souls and get a read on them and you're just not utilizing it and it becomes kind of a farce and ridiculous when you're not utilizing it. But
Also, Harry entrusts with Denton the frickin' incident report that he wanted to give to Murphy. And I'm like, why are you
yeah,
just
why did he
handing
do
off
that?
secret material to the FBI agent who's covering up his fellow FBI agent's discharged
Mm-hmm.
weapon? You little weirdo. And so anyway, he calls Murphy and he's like, hey, the investigative report, I gave it to the FBI agent. And she's like, Roger that. And he's like, oh, the internal investigations officer is there, isn't he? And she's like, yep, sure thing. And it's just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is a fun little scene. And then Harry runs into Agent Harris, the ginger,
The ginger who looks up to him,
and the ginger wants to hire Harry for
which is
plot
weird.
reasons. Yeah, he shouldn't be hiring him. He's an investigative agent. Do your own work. Don't hire someone else to do your book report.
And the way that he
Anyway,
keeps like calling him kid and everything is annoying because as you mentioned, they're peers.
they're peers. Harry,
I would be so annoyed with you, Hannah, if you were like kind of like, you got it, kid.
I,
I'll be like, we're the same age.
I mean, I am a full year older than you. How
Okay.
dare you?
You were a
Listen,
toddler
listen
when
here, kid. I was walking when you
you were
were
a
a
toddler
baby.
you were walking when I was crawling. Okay.
Anyway, so it sounds like it's just plot reasons to get Harry to go to this random like automobile place.
You mean the Full Moon Garage?
Oh my gosh. I was so mad. Like
my notes
Harry
says Full Moon Garage. I roll.
Harry is the worst private investigator. Look at a phone book for Full Moon
How
anything.
Could they not? I wonder where those werewolves are meeting up.
Also,
Full Moon Garage couldn't be
obviously,
that.
when we get into our actual discussion of themes, I would love to discuss the connotations of werewolves and how they were seen in media and often treated as more non-white people, as things like vampires, and the connotations for that. And this book doesn't do great to reinforce some of the stereotypes of werewolves because most of them are idiots. And a lot of times they're naked for reasons.
Yeah, why were they naked?
They're in broad daylight in a garage, a place of business. Why were they
figure that out either?
I was so mad.
I was like, is this just for shape-shifting reasons that they have to be, or like what's going on?
We're getting a little ahead. So Agent Harris hires Harry. So many H's and D's in these names.
Yeah,
Dresden,
Denton,
Denton, Harry, Harris. But anyway, so he's like, yeah, there's this garage that we should look into called the Full Moon Garage. And there's too many people, and it's like a biker gang slayer. So he thinks too many people are dying and Harry should go look into it.
Well, and then Harry goes there, but he's got like a ring that he's stored up some energy, and he keeps mentioning like, yeah, normally my punches are only so powerful. With this, I can punch with the power of like 10 men. Like, okay, cool.
And also he comes in and he's immediately like, hey, I'm here for investigation reasons. And they're like, get out of here, Harry. And he's like, but I'm not a cop. And it's like, who cares? You're showing up to these naked people's place of business.
Well, it's so weird. And he calls them ne'er-do-wells, to which I put, you're 25. You don't say that.
I think he's 24, so maybe at age 24 he does. And so he's just like, hey guys, I just want to see what's going on. And if you guys are murdering people, that's pretty much what he says.
Kind of,
and this man is like, you don't give orders here. I give orders here. And then people start chanting, kill him.
Harry is attacked and has to fight them. The leader breaks it up. It's pandemonium.
But also, there's someone who's chanting "kill him, which
I know.
is so funny if you think about the fact that Harry is sitting in the middle of a garage full of naked people with someone in the corner funny? Going, "Kill him."
Really weird.
Just imagine this happening in the TV show. I think it's funny. And so Harry has to fight them, the leader shouting at them to stop. And Harry looks
because he sees the naked lust for the hunt in their eyes. Direct quote.
And Harry looks into the eyes of the leader and he realizes that Parker is losing his alpha status.
Yes.
And so he has to kill Harry.
He has to kill Harry to keep his leader status because apparently Harry challenged him just by asking like two questions,
insisting and being like, I'm not a cop.
Hey guys.
Harry has a moment where he goes, why did I walk in here like this? This is so stupid.
I know.
What? Why are you having this moment where you're just like, oh, I shouldn't have done this. This was a bad idea. It's just like, was this okay?
I didn't think it through.
And so he does fight them off. He is able to get away. And
then he mentions, well, now I've got another person after me.
But he also is like, their magic is like baby magic.
Is this when he goes into like this rant of like how he's actually drawn to black magic and he would actually like to use it for killing? It's almost like a drug.
But also in the second movie of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Stay With Me, there is a moment where the big bad creates his own mutant animals, and then he finds out that they are babies, and he goes, they are babies. That's what I'm imagining when Harry is like, they have baby magic.
Which one is this? Which TNT?
It's TNT. I think it's The Legend of the Ooze.
Is that the one with Megan Fox?
No. This is
Oh.
the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh. Gotcha.
I watched those so much when I was younger.
Gotcha.
Um,
I
no,
watched the
these
animated show, but
no. I watched the shit out of the original movies, and the second one
gotcha.
is also bad. And then in the third one, they go back in time. Why? Couldn't tell you. Um, but anyway, those are the 1987 to 1996 movies. They're babies. And so he's like, oh, they obviously didn't murder anyone. They're just naked people in a garage. And so he goes back to his office, and who is there but Marconi, because
Hmm.
with the gang's getting back together.
Him and his
And
bodyguard are there.
Marconi is there
Can
to
I just mention
hire
that he
Harry.
he says that Marconi's skin is the color of old dollar bills?
Ew,
I know that kind of grossed me out too.
I don't like that.
And also, I have noticed this because he lists some of the names of the books in his office, and one of them is "Want to do magic? Ask me how," which made me laugh so much.
The Idiot's Guide to Magic.
Yes.
The Idiot's Guide to Loop Gurus. Uh, so Marconi wants to hire Harry
Mhm.
for reasons, I guess, to like get him in his
Well,
pocket.
basically because he's like, I need some info. I kind of need you on my side, and I also have like an interest in having some security. And I've been looking for UFOs in Joliet.
I blacked out at that part. I do not remember that happening, but I'm glad you do.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Harry considers taking the job because he has an interest in security and he has been looking for UFOs in Joliet,
Oh,
is what he says. I'm
okay.
sorry. I read my note wrong.
That's fair. So Harry just doesn't like his job. And he
Yes.
like kind of gives Harry a pretty sweet deal where he's like, you only have to work for me like five
I thought it
hours a
was pretty good
week
too.
or a month or something. And you can do whatever you want in your spare time. You just have to like be in my pocket pretty much. And
Hmm.
Harry has this moment where earlier in the book, he has talked about how he has used the fact that people think he helped Marconi take down the drug dealer in the last book to his advantage. And then all of a sudden he's like, and in that moment, I realized I was disgusted that my name and his were said in the
Well,
same
and then he
sentence.
gets all mad at him and he's like, "You know what? You weren't there. You didn't see what happened to Spike. I did. I smelled it." I'm like, "Oh,
And
okay."
it's
And
like,
then
well,
he
it's
turns down the offer. He's like, "How dare you offer me that?" Like, "Oh, okay."
and so Marconi like leaves after Harry screams at him for like
Yeah.
very specific and I get it, like I think it's supposed to be like, isn't Harry so amazing? He's on the up and up.
But
Da, da,
also,
da,
like,
da,
Harry
da, da.
is traumatized and needs some therapy for some of the things he's seen, honestly.
That's fair. He did just see a very mutilated body.
Yeah.
But like Marconi also wants to find out what happened to Spike because like it happened on his turf, on his property, and he doesn't
Hmm.
really know what's going on. So
Hmm.
and it's just Marconi is also like, you've seen my deepest soul, and I've seen
Hmm.
yours. And it's like, this is a weird moment. It's just like this first section is very disjointed. It feels like it
Yeah.
jumps around a lot, and the energy is very erratic. Cause like all
Hmm.
of a sudden he's like, I used to like when he's in the shop, he's like, I'm one of Marconi's men. And then he goes to Marconi and he's like, I'm disgusted with you. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
you're a little bit of a hypocrite then. And then you have like FBI agents shooting up places
Hmm.
and nothing happening afterward. It's just very bizarre. So,
Yeah,
anyway,
it is.
with this fact that we're having total whiplash, all of a sudden Harry's just talking to a demon. Um,
Well, he got him in a summoning circle. Chauncey.
Chauncey. And he's and this is also like this is what I mean by disjointed. At one point he's like, Chauncey is someone who all wizards call because he just likes to talk and he's very good at getting information. But then Chauncey is like expert negotiator
Yeah, he's
and
like, "Give me
asks,
some of your names."
and he already has Harry Dresden, and apparently if you give a demon all of your name, you're in big trouble.
Well,
And
because
so
they own your soul, basically, is what it is.
yeah. And Harry has many names, but not that many names. And so he
Yeah, it's
just
only four. Like, you gave him
sells
two.
it. And he's like, this is worth it. And I'm like, is it? It sounds like it's
I
not
don't
worth
think
it for the
so.
information you need. That sounds pretty big. Um, and so he asks him for like what's going on with Marconi and his business partner. and they were talking about how there's this guy named McFinn with the Northwest Passage Project. So
Mm-hmm.
he pretty much could have gone to business records to figure this out if he
Kind
were
of,
an
yeah.
actual private investigator. It sounds like he's just
Well,
trying to
and it
skip.
has to be because there's a bunch of land transactions, is what the deal is.
The project is to buy enormous tracts of land,
Mm-hmm.
beginning in central Rocky Mountains, pretty far away, and moving northwest into Canada to provide for like
For
migratory
wildlife.
size preserve wildlife. And he wants to like get this from the government and get the government to like guarantee that it's part of the Northwest package
Mm-hmm.
and like benefit from all of this. So it's like weird underhanded buying of industrial like transactions.
Yeah.
And I guess Marconi and Harding wanted to stop it from happening. And then all of a sudden, like McFinn is a member of this ancient family line. So I bet he has some silver bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, they're cursed with the lycanthropy, and it travels through their family because Saint Patrick cursed them. Do not forget that Saint Patrick, the Catholic saint,
well, of course,
cursed them,
because it's
and their
the guy's
curse will
named
last
McFinn.
forever.
And so it's just this weird, like, yeah, he's getting this Northwest Package project for reasons. There's like a limit on how much I can do for these mortal affairs. And it's like, well, then
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't have given up your name, Harry. Um, and I guess with the
But then he
death,
does get some info out of him because he tells him where to find McFinn. The
yeah,
demon tells him where to find McFinn.
he gives him
So
his address. And so Harry tells him he's Harry Blackstone from Dresden. And he goes, I carefully omitted Copperfield from the word while leaving the tones and pronunciations the same. And it's like, what does that mean, Harry?
I don't know how you say that then.
Is it
Harry Blackstone? Ha ha ha.
Harry
Dresden.
Blackstone Dresden? And it's like, okay. I is it because like he wanted to make sure that the demon didn't know which break in the name had something?
I don't know.
It was very confusing. But then the demon talks about how he knew
His
Harry's
parents, his mom's
mother.
specifically.
And
Margaret Gwendolyn Dresden.
your mother was the most direct and willful woman. Her loss was a great sadness to us all. And he's like,
The
so you didn't
Dark
know about your
Prince
mom's?
lost her in the past.
And he's like, you didn't know about her past? Like, that's a conversation we could have had sooner. And then he wants like Harry's name. And Harry bet it on, again, investigative work.
Mm-hmm.
And so he can't give him the rest of his name. So he says, no deal. And then Chauncey gets angry and he realizes, like, oh, Chauncey might be more powerful. And then I'm like, well, then why did you say that many wizards use him? This is
Right.
confusing. Um, so he sends Chauncey back and he's sitting there thinking about what he said about his mom and what it all means. And then Murphy calls and says that there's been another body up in Gold Coast
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Where
at the
the demon
same
told him to go.
address of the where the demon told him to go. And so, yeah, that's the first third of the book.
I do want to mention though, like he doesn't fall for like the demon's trap to like get more names out of him when because of course it's a book and we need to not get all the info about his parents because that's going to be leaked throughout the series, I'm sure.
Yeah, obviously.
But I do kind of feel bad for him in this moment because he is having those thoughts where he's like, oh, well, maybe she didn't die in childbirth. Maybe my dad didn't have an aneurysm. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of tragic to hear someone having those thoughts. And he is like kind of longing for that sense of identity.
Yeah.
And I feel bad. I'm like, oh, this kind of sucks.
He is a very tragic figure. I just wish he did his own
Yes.
homework. Because all I've seen him do as a wizard is make other people tell him things.
Yeah.
And
He's
he
definitely one of those that like wants to at least I get the vibe that he wants to like strong arm people into doing stuff. You're gonna do it my way or the highway. And okay.
it's very strange. So, yeah, I don't really know what to expect out of this book except for werewolves.
Large paw prints.
I
Murphy's cute now.
bet I bet the cursed family has silver bullets though, because
Hmm.
someone has to be handing it down for generations.
I
And
mean, yeah, that's
who
had to
could
be
it
passed
be
down.
otherwise? That is such a specific rule. I hate that rule so, so much. So, so, so
It's a
much.
lot.
But yeah, Laura, what are you thinking so far?
Honestly, I think it's kind of a romp.
Oh,
I've
these are all
I've
romps.
I really have been enjoying that first third of the book. I laughed a lot. I had a lot of fun. Like I really enjoyed the first third.
That's good. I don't know how I mean, it's better than the Megan Miranda book I just read. So
I
these
mean,
books are fun.
I'll caveat with there's been a lot of eye rolling and some of the like there was a joke that Bob the Skull made about like a there wolf, like haha, it's not a werewolf, it's a there wolf.
This is where I
Hilarious.
admit that
Dad
I did
jokes.
laugh at that. I thought
Like,
that was enjoyable.
oh, I had an eye roll. But
Okay, well that's
I,
fair
I
for
found a lot
humor.
of the book to be fun and despite the eye rolls and Harry trying to defend himself as a not chauvinist, I have enjoyed the book.
I will say that this book, like I read different books that were a lot like this in the early 2000s. Like I
Okay.
remember I read specifically because women books versus men books in Hannah's World. I read a lot of J.D. Robb, which is Nora Roberts' murder mystery
Mhm.
series
Okay.
set in the future. This gives that energy and I do enjoy those
Okay.
books. I mean, like I read Megan Miranda books for a reason. I like whodunits. So
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
gives me that energy and I definitely enjoy it a lot. Um but yeah, it's a lot when you have to talk through the plot. I think that that's always like you're usually giving quips. I'm usually like, here are the details of the plot. By the end of it, I'm like,
Yeah, I don't have to be as in depth here.
yeah. So Laura gets to have funny little quips, and I have to be like, and then
I
they
will
said
say
this
though, I
about the
took a lot
Hexen
of notes
Wolves.
and I
You
do
did.
remember what happened. So good
So
job, Laura. First time taking
say
notes.
this about us. We do remember what happened in these books. So
Yeah.
I just wish that there were better reasons and a little bit less whiplash out of this romp. Like,
I think that honestly, it's almost like it's getting I shouldn't say it's getting. I feel like Butcher has a tendency to make things more complicated than they need to be.
mhm.
And
He-
even with the introduction of like some of these secondary characters and stuff, I'm like, we didn't need them. We could have another character come in and do this, or you could have done this or that, and like totally get rid of that whole Harris
right.
subplot thing, or
The
like
full
all
moon
of the
stuff. Like, why did we
all
have
of
to
the
go?
exposition dumping that Bob the Skull had to do. Like, we did not need to have that many
Mm-mm.
different kinds. Two, three tops. That there's so many different kinds of werewolves. It just gets almost overly complicated to the point where you as a reader are kind of like, oh, I don't understand why this had to be mentioned or why this had to be mentioned.
I think you and I also don't love it. We're not huge world builders unless we can like see the scene. Like if you had us like introduced to a specific type of werewolf, we're in it for that, but we're not in for the exposition dumping. It gets
I mean, I
harder.
don't know. I do kind of like world building
Yeah, I know, but
because
like I know that, but like I'm saying we usually like it if it's building the world. We don't want like the exposition dump of world building where it's like here's the
like
list of what's
everybody
going on.
explaining it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of enjoy it in sci-fi though, I feel like because
Yeah.
I like it when Becky Chambers goes into depth explaining the different species and worlds in her books. So I don't know. I guess maybe it's just
It
dependent on how it's
depends.
done for
Yeah.
me. But in this it seems just kind of a lot and I almost want Butcher to like kind of trim the fat a little bit, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Where it just seems like there's a little too much in some of the sections and it gets confusing because of that.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out more next week, guys. So please follow
What a
along as
ride.
we cover the next 11 chapters of this book. Please also, if you are so willing, rate, review, and subscribe. It would mean a lot.
Appreciate it.
Fine. But if you would, so go throw us a 5 stars over on iTunes or rate us on Spotify. You can also comment on Spotify. That's great. We
Yay.
love seeing it. Or join us over on our Discord. You can also follow
Yes.
us on all the platforms at OWWR Pod or go to our website, ourpod.com, where we're posting some great stuff, including a recent post for the author highlight as SF Henny. So make sure you're following
Yay.
along with those. Also, as promised, we are having TV Tuesdays. So
Yeah.
please go listen to us talk about The Last of Us with FTF Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. We totally already recorded that and it's not being
Yes.
recorded tomorrow. And it was a
Han-
great episode.
Hannah and I are recording out of sequence, so we're talking about future events, but by the time you're hearing this, you might have already heard our Last of Us podcast episode with FTF.
Oh my
So,
gosh, what a
did we
mind
make Dylan and
melt.
Charles cry? Who knows?
Did we do the infamous of making Charles cry campaign? Who knows?
I mean, this was a good attempt. If we were going to
attempt.
make Charles cry with any piece of media, The Last of Us may have done it.
That episode 7, I think it is.
So many of these episodes are tear jerkers. Oh, The Last of Us is so good. Everyone go watch The Last of Us. And thanks for supporting us. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. And thanks for listening and sharing. You're the best.
Tell a friend and join us next week. Bye.
Bye.